For Akari, a 36-year-old from the hyper-organized world of Osaka, Japan, this was a full-blown catastrophe. A school event in Iloilo had dissolved into what could only be described as beautiful, brilliant chaos. The air, thick with the smell of grilled hot dogs and sweet banana Q, was a wall of sound. Children, squealing with a joy so pure it bordered on hysteria, darted between plastic chairs. A speaker system, pushed to its absolute limit, blasted cheerful Filipino pop music, which was losing a battle with the noise of 100 conversations happening all at once. Every instinct in Akari's meticulously ordered soul was screaming that this was a failure. Schedules weren't guidelines, they were scripture. Events weren't meant to be survived, they were meant to be executed with flawless precision. This was a 5-alarm fire of inefficiency. But then, through the happy pandemonium, she saw her. In the absolute center of the storm stood Elena, the 30-year-old Filipina teacher, and she was perfectly, unbelievably calm. Akari was about to discover a powerful form of patience she never knew existed, a lesson that would completely rewrite her understanding of strength and control. To get why Akari was so shocked, you have to understand the world she came from. Akari was a product of Osaka, a city that runs on commerce and punctuality. For 10 years, she'd worked as a logistics manager for a multinational corporation, a job where her entire life was about eliminating variables. Her world was a symphony of color-coded spreadsheets and synchronized clocks. A train arriving 30 seconds late was a flaw in the system. A meeting starting 2 minutes behind schedule was a sign of disrespect. She wasn't rigid. In her mind, she was simply correct. This was how a modern, efficient society worked. Order wasn't just a preference, it was a moral good. She'd come to Iloilo on a 2-year assignment meant to bridge her company's Japanese and Philippine branches. In her first 6 months, she'd developed a kind of fond exasperation for the place. She loved the sunsets over the Guimaras Strait and the disarmingly friendly smiles from strangers. But the daily rhythm of life grated against her programming. The infamous Filipino time was a constant, low-grade source of stress. It wasn't a charming quirk. To her, it was a cascade of broken appointments and delayed projects. She saw the tangled overhead wires in the city not as a sign of history, but as a task left undone. She saw the chaotic dance of jeepneys as a system crying out for order. She appreciated the warmth, but couldn't understand the acceptance of what she saw as systemic inefficiency. Her Filipino colleagues were brilliant and hard-working, yet they seemed to operate with a completely different internal clock, one that prioritized a friendly chat over a hard deadline. They'd just laugh and say, "Don't be so stressed, Mama Akari, it will get done." And it always did somehow. But for a woman who built the maps for a living, the process felt like a journey without one, and it was maddening. This school family day was the ultimate test. Her colleague had invited her, and his son was in Elena's kindergarten class. Akari arrived at precisely 9 a.m., the scheduled start, to find the field mostly empty. The event flickered to life around 10:30, and by 11:30 it had reached the state of beautiful anarchy she was now witnessing. Her mind immediately ran a diagnostic. The sack race station had bled into the area for the pabitin, a classic Filipino party game. Children, faces sticky with chocolate, were abandoning games midway through to chase a friend. Parents weren't just watching from the sidelines, they were in the thick of it, shouting encouragement and adding to the joyful cacophony. There was no clear beginning or end to any activity. It was a living, breathing, joyful mess. Standing at the edge of it all, Akari felt her shoulders tense. Her mind screamed for a whistle, a microphone, anything to restore order. She scanned the scene for the person in charge, the one who should be fixing this, and her eyes landed on Elena. Elena stood near the center of the field, an island of serenity. She wasn't holding a megaphone or clapping for attention. She was simply present. A small boy, no older than 5, ran up to her, tears streaming down his face after tripping during a race. Akari braced for the efficient Japanese response. A quick check for scrapes, a "you're okay," and a gentle push back toward the activities. Minimize disruption. Restore the flow. But Elena did something else. She knelt, bringing herself to the boy's eye level, ignoring the chaos around them. She didn't speak right away. She just put a calming hand on his shoulder and waited. The boy's sobs quieted in the space her silence created. Only then did she speak. Her voice too low for Akari to hear, but her expression was one of complete focus. She didn't just send him on his way, she pointed back to the vibrant chaos and reframed it for him. The boy's tear-streaked face slowly broke into a smile. She hadn't just fixed his scraped knee, she had restored his joy. Akari watched, mesmerized. A few minutes later, some older kids, high on sugar, started a game of tag that threatened to collide with a line of toddlers. Akari's internal alarms went off. She expected a sharp, disciplinary tone. Instead, Elena intercepted the lead runner, not with a command, but with a cheerful question. "Hey, you're so fast. I bet you can't run to that tree and back 3 times. She had turned their chaotic energy into a challenge. She hadn't stopped their momentum, she had redirected it. This wasn't weakness or a surrender to chaos. Akari's analytical mind began to recognize a pattern. Elena was a master conductor, but her instrument wasn't the schedule. It was the emotional energy of the crowd. She was absorbing the stress and frustration and transforming it. Akari was witnessing a kind of emotional genius, a skill many Filipino teachers are known for, allowing them to manage stress and foster positive environments. She was watching an emotional control so profound it seemed like a superpower. It was the complete opposite of the Japanese concept of gammon, of enduring hardship with a clenched jaw. This wasn't endurance, this was alchemy. The judgment clouding Akari's mind began to fade, replaced by a deep, urgent curiosity. She'd spent her life believing that control was about imposing order on the world. Elena was showing her that maybe true control was about finding order within yourself, no matter what the world looked like outside. She knew, with a certainty that surprised her, that she had to talk to this woman. As the afternoon sun dipped lower, the event's energy finally began to wane. Parents started gathering their weary, smiling kids. Akari saw Elena helping clean up, still with that same unruffled calm. Taking a deep breath, Akari walked over. "Excuse me, Elena-sensei," Akari began formally. "I am Akari. Kenji, from your class, is my colleague's son." Elena's face broke into a wide, genuine smile. "Oh yes, Mama Akari, hello. I'm so glad you could come. Did you have a good time?" The question caught Akari off guard. "It was very energetic," she replied. "I was watching you earlier, during the peak." Elena chuckled. "Ah yes, the peak. You mean the chaos? It gets a little wild, but they have so much fun." "That's what I wanted to ask." Akari leaned in. "How do you do it? How do you stay so calm? In Japan, an event like this so far off schedule would be seen as a failure. The person in charge would be under immense stress." Elena listened patiently. "A failure?" she repeated softly. "But why? The children were happy. The parents were laughing. We were all together. Isn't that the point of a family day?" The simplicity of the statement struck Akari like a gong. In her world, the goal was the plan. Here, the plan was just a flimsy container for something far more important, the experience. "But the chaos," Akari pressed, "the noise, the running. You never raised your voice." "Raising my voice would only add more noise," Elena said with a shrug. "It would add my stress to their excitement. That helps no one. My job isn't to control them, it's to guide them." She picked up an empty cup. When things get wild, I could choose to be frustrated. I could think, they're not listening, this is a mess, and my heart would beat fast. She paused and looked directly at Akari. Or I can choose to see it differently. I can think, wow, they have so much energy. They feel safe and happy. When I choose to see the happiness instead of the mess, my own feelings change. Then I'm calm. And when I'm calm, I can help them be calm too. It was a conscious, deliberate reframing of a stressful situation, a technique educators use for emotional regulation. In Japan, we have a word, gaman, Akari explained. It means to endure hardship without complaint. It's a great virtue. To be patient is to grit your teeth and bear the storm. Ah, Elena nodded. We have a word too, paciencia. It is also patience, but maybe it's a little different. For us, paciencia isn't just waiting for the storm to pass. It's understanding that the rain is just rain. You can't be angry at the rain, so you find peace while it's raining. The children's energy is like the rain. It isn't a bad thing, it's just a thing. I don't have to fight it, I can just be with it. She then shared a bit about her personal teaching philosophy, mentioning how, in her own classroom, she sometimes uses peace circles, a practice consistent with social emotional learning trends, where children can talk about their feelings. The goal, she said, is to make children feel understood, because a child who feels understood is ready to learn. Every word was dismantling decades of Akari's cultural conditioning. Japanese harmony was often achieved through suppression. The Filipino harmony Elena described was achieved through acceptance of messiness, of imperfection, of the beautiful chaos of life. It wasn't about clearing the path. It was about getting better at walking on uneven ground. Akari walked away from that conversation feeling like the world had tilted on its axis. That 20-minute talk was more transformative than 6 months in a new country. It was as if she'd been seeing the Philippines in black and white, and Elena had just flooded her world with color. In the weeks that followed, Akari began to see Iloilo differently. Her commute, once a source of frustration, became a source of fascination. She no longer saw a jeepney driver cutting her off as just a rule breaker. Instead, she saw a participant in a complex, unspoken dance for space that, against all odds, just worked. One afternoon, she found herself in a long line at a government office. The old Akari would have been tapping her foot, glancing at her watch, mentally calculating the lost productivity. The new Akari took a deep breath and just observed. She saw people waiting, not with anger, but with a quiet acceptance. They were talking to their neighbors in line. An elderly woman was fanning a young mother's baby. They weren't just enduring the wait, they were living in it. This wasn't a system failure, it was a community being a community. She realized the incredible strength she'd seen in Elena wasn't an isolated trait. It was a cultural bedrock. It was the resilience that allowed people to smile through typhoons and prioritize human connection over rigid efficiency. She thought of her life in Osaka, so clean, so predictable, but also the unspoken stress, the pressure to conform, the loneliness that can exist in a crowd of people perfectly following the rules. She had always seen the Filipino way as inefficient. Now she wondered if the Japanese way was, in its own way, emotionally unsustainable. Elena's calm wasn't weakness. It was the ultimate sign of strength, the power of someone who has mastered their inner world so completely that the outer world can't touch their peace. She had come to the Philippines to teach efficiency, but instead she had become the student, and her teacher was a 30-year-old woman in Iloilo who taught her that true patience wasn't about controlling the world around you. It was about gracefully letting go of the need to. It wasn't about waiting for the storm to pass. It was about learning to find peace and maybe even a little joy while dancing in the rain. This one experience in Iloilo completely changed Akari's perspective. It makes you wonder what other powerful lessons are waiting for us when we open ourselves up to different ways of living. So, what unexpected life lesson has another culture taught you? Share your story in the comments below. I'd love to read about the moments that changed you.